Hi, cousin.
Hi, cousin. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to finally be back. This is episode 1, Open Jar Podcast. I'm finally back. If you know me, I am Jar. I'm Jasmine A. Robinson, and this is Open Jar Podcast, where all the conversations are going to be open, real, honest, true, from the heart.
All the things.
All the things, literally all the things. And for my first episode, I had to bring none other than my cousin Whitley.
Hi, cousin.
Hi, love. Because in order for me to move forward, I kind of got to go back a little bit. Because like, where have I been? The last podcast that I was on full time was with my sisters, with the Sisters Collective. And we did that for a couple of years. And then life happened, pandemic and this and that and all the things. And we tried to, keep it going. But then life really got real.
I was going to say you're missing a
life
point.
Really got real. If you're familiar with that podcast, it was the 3 of my sisters and myself, and the 4 of us made up the Sisters Collective. Well, here we are, 2023, January. One of my sisters passed away, and I think that put like the biggest.
It lit a fire in the family.
It really did. It really, really did. It made me realize that one, not like I already didn't know, life is fleeting, but it really put an emphasis on how much life is short. It can be long, but it can be as short as it want to be. And so the fire that was lit under me in January and in my grieving process made me realize there's a story that needs to be told. There is a life that needs to be lived. And I can't sit down and sit in this space of not being open and honest with where I've been and open and honest with myself.
And where you're going.
And where I'm going. And the journey has not stopped. The legacy of my family doesn't stop. It doesn't end with the loss of one family member.
You know I get excited about words.
I know. Listen, I know. So it really made me realize that at that moment I needed to take account of where I was. And like, am I going to sit up here and stop my life? Am I going to not continue the goals, the things, like one of the things that my sister Amanda, that she told me was like, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. Like, I see these things. And at first I was like, oh, like, okay, like I have time. But no, I was like, oh, babes, life is moving.
You need to live now.
I need to live now. And so one of the things in me living now is this podcast. I have been thinking about it for a while. I really wanted to kind of step out on my own and do a podcast, but it was kind of like, when do I do that? I have time to do that in essence. But I was like, oh, babes. No, let's go ahead and time is now. So here we are. This is episode 1. And reason I said we had to go back before we go forward is because our family has grieved a lot.
There's been a lot. It's
been a lot. And not only has it been a lot, but we have really found a way to process our grief.
And one of the deaths of the family, I think, is what drew us closer.
Yes.
So when Jamela passed, was the first that ultimately ended up bringing you and I closer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When she passed in 2017, it was December of 2017, that was,
that was the first of like my trilogy of deaths that ended up like making me know so much about grieving. So Jamela was the first of the trilogy for me.
I would say so for me as well, because yes, my brother Eric passed away the year before. However, when he passed, we weren't super close, so it was yes, I grieved, but it was not the same.
The impact was different.
The impact was different. When Jamela passed away, it was like, oh wait,
it was earth shattering.
Like, oh wait, this is like nothing I had ever felt. I was able to realize, one, I learned the stages of grief. Oh, I learned those things. I learned them things quick. I learned them quick. And once I realized, okay, I looked after that period of time. When we fast forward to like 2018, and I was looking back and I was like, oh, this is how I handled that. I could see how I processed grief. I could see the stages that I went through. I could see all of the things to the point where I had gotten down to the smallest weight I had ever been in my adult life because I did not know how to process grief at the time. I was just trying to continue living.
Well, grief is a thing.
It's a whole thing.
Grief is a thing. And I think that as we're growing up, we're taught manners. We're taught to say please and thank you. We're taught how to ride a bike. Nobody teaches us how to grieve. And it's a part of life because ultimately everyone dies. But no one teaches us what to do when someone dies.
Oh, facts. Because you took the words out of my mouth. I was like, we celebrate birth. We have a baby shower. We have weddings. We have all of these things. We have birthdays. Girl, a birthday? Oh, it's a celebration.
I'm still in my year of Jubilee.
It's a week. It's a month. It's a year. Like it's a whole thing. And so we know how to celebrate life, but we have never ever been taught how to process and celebrate and go through someone's passing. And I know there's other types of grief. There's grief when you get a divorce, when you lose a job, when you no longer friends with somebody, when you're not like relationship grieving.
Survivor grief is also a thing.
Yes, yes.
A lot of people talk to me about grief. Talking to one of my coworkers, she had breast cancer and had a partial mastectomy, so she still has one like real breast.
Yeah.
But she grieved her like natural breast, and she still is grieving it 20 some odd years later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because when you think about the process of grief, you're thinking about, okay, I had this idea in my mind of the way my life was going to go, the way I was going to be, the things, the goals that we had in mind when you're talking about if it's a person or even a thing, like you're grieving a breast.
I've had this body part my whole life.
And now one part of me is gone. How do I walk through life now? You have to every day have an adjustment to that thing, to that loss.
Every day, this is something, not a shameless plug yet. Something I wrote in my book is that you have to choose to be happy every day. So every day, there's going to be something that reminds you of your breast, of your sibling, of the relationship. But every day you ultimately have to choose, today I choose to be happy.
Yes.
Despite how I feel about the situation.
Yes. You have to give yourself permission. We talked about this yesterday and I was like, oh, I love it. I'm here for it. Because you literally have to give yourself permission to move forward.
That's a layered thing to say, give yourself permission. Part of it is you have to give yourself permission to even heal.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times we think that since life goes on and since there's now a sense of urgency to accomplish all the things, you still have to have the moment and give yourself permission to heal.
Yeah, yeah.
And after you're healing, whatever that looks like you have to give yourself permission to live.
Yeah.
I have now healed and I'm now my heart is not broken anymore. And now it's time to live. Now it's time to go travel. And now it's time to accomplish the things that you set up with that person.
But mentally, your mind is like, but how? Mentally, you're like, you're stuck in the past. You're stuck in that existence of that thing, of that person, because it's hard to be like, I'm living now without. I'm living now in a space that you aren't going to be a part of. That thing isn't going to be a part of this next journey. And it's okay. Ugh.
I think I like analogies and examples. I think it makes things a lot more tangible and real. Think about being in elementary school or any school in general, and you have to ask permission to use the restroom.
Yeah.
You're going to miss a part of class. So something is missing, but ultimately the teacher still gives you permission to use the restroom.
Yeah.
You come back and you ultimately catch up on whatever you've missed.
Ooh, stop it. Okay.
So I think it's the same moment in life. I give myself permission after all of the deaths that I've experienced to still live. My friend that passed away.
With Mandy, I'm like, okay, what's going to be that thing? Part of that is me going back to school because that's something that she saw within me So I'm like, this, I'm thinking of you in this. And I think remembering as you're moving forward and healing in that healing process is to remember the things, remember those people and bring them with you in a sense.
Something that I didn't write down. Oh God, didn't write down. And if I were to publish another book, I would say that it doesn't end. So it doesn't end. And I say that it doesn't end because every time Mandy told you I loved you and every time Jamela told you I love you, it still stands. Facts. It's never ending. Facts. Sound is never ending. It normally stops because something disrupts the sound. So literally the sound of them saying I love you
never ends.
Never ends.
That's good.
So like while you're out traveling and while you're back at school, like the moment you're in your first class, like that's Mandy being like, I love you, babe.
She already trying to make me cry. Like she's already trying to do it. Like I was like, either we're both going to end up out of here a mess today or one of us.
Oh, no, we're going to make it. We're going to make it.
But yes, like I completely agree. And there's something that that happens, and I want people to understand is in your grief, like you said, it never ends, but that journey never ends of even the grieving. Because what happens sometimes, even to this day, I will be in the middle of something and there's a part of my life that like my sister Jamela did not get to experience because of when she passed. So she never met my daughter. And so there's certain times I was like, oh, I will have this thought in my mind to pick up the phone and call one of my sisters or FaceTime. Because what we did love was FaceTime. Okay.
You and I will FaceTime each other and be like, what are you picking up for dinner?
Like the simplest thing.
So it's something that could be text or a quick phone call.
But I want to FaceTime. I want to see your face. I want to see your face. And so I will have that thought like, oh, let me FaceTime. And then it's like you're taken back to like, oh, okay, I can't do that anymore. I can't call that person anymore. And that's okay. I think what I often hear when people who have just recently experienced grief is it's like they don't want to feel the feelings.
Listen.
They don't want to feel the feelings. And
there's several things to that. And not frustration, but like I want to scream this on a mountaintop. First of all, it is okay to not be okay. It is okay to not, I'm going to look y'all in the face. It is okay to not be okay.
Yes.
The other part of not being okay is feel it.
Yes.
Grieving is dark. Grieving will make you have nightmares. You will be living a nightmare and you're going to feel it. But darkness only gets dark. Darkness doesn't get darker. So while you're feeling your feelings, just feel it. Like it's not
walk in it.
It's not fun, but like there's something that you need out of it. I think so. I don't know if I told you this, but we talked, and I think this was from yesterday. We talked about like grieving and feeling your feelings. There's always a lesson in it. So what I learned from my friend passing, well, first of all, I'm capable of publishing a book, but also it taught me, the life of her taught me different things, like different aspects. She was always willing to give back. She was always willing to show up for people.
Yeah.
I am so intentional about showing up for people because of her.
Yeah.
So there's always a lesson, even if it's dark and you don't want to feel your feelings and you don't know what it means to not be okay. Feel it.
Yes.
Just don't get stuck in it.
Yes. I think that's a part of like understanding the process. Like it's this moment does not last forever. This darkness that you might be in, it's not forever. It's a simple moment that you have to allow yourself to feel, because the longer that you delay that, it only extends it.
My book has titles for like different days, because I have a book called You Got This.
Yes.
It's available on Amazon.
Yes.
It's about processing grief.
30 days.
30 days of grief.
Yes.
And the point of it is to uproot your grief. So I have different titles, and something that you just said is not to get stuck in it. There's a title that's called The Cost of Your Destiny. And I'm not going to quote it word for word because I can't, because I don't remember. But I remember, I don't remember what I wrote. I remember.
It's okay. It's okay.
But I remember talking about you can't get stuck in grieving because it'll cost you your destiny. If you get stuck in the mud, you ultimately end up not being able to move forward. If you get stuck in your grieving, you're going to miss your opportunities. You're going to miss your goals. You're going to miss the accomplishments you were supposed to accomplish because you're stuck in your grieving.
Right.
The cost of your destiny.
Ooh, that right there. This is.
Hi, hello.
This is why. Whitley, goodness gracious. That is so real because you lose out on what is supposed to be by being stuck in the past, by being stuck in this current space.
You lose out. So the day that my friend passed, her and I actually had plans to go out. Because it was a free giveaway for something, and we're like, okay, we'll meet up for that.
Yeah.
I've never talked about this in a public space, that her and I were supposed to meet up the day that she passed.
Wow.
So I was stuck on that. Like, I was stuck on that for a while, to the point, like, I didn't want to go to the restaurant that we were supposed to go to for a very long time. And now I kind of go to celebrate her. Like, when I'm there, I'm like, hey, girl.
Yes.
But I have missed out. It's not that I didn't want to eat there. It's not like I didn't crave like that restaurant, but I was like, nah.
I can't.
I can't.
Yeah.
Because I was stuck in it.
It's after.
That's not when you're going to get stuck. When you get stuck is when everyone leaves.
Yeah.
When your silence is loud.
Yeah. Ooh, because babes, it was loud. I tell you. It was loud.
So part of it is like you have to find something to do in your silence. Like, you can't let your silence be louder than your goals. That's a good gem.
That's a gem.
Your silence can't be louder than your goals. And I say that because a lot of the times in your head, you're thinking, well, if she was here, she would be able to tell me this. She's still saying it to you.
Right.
So
it's those silent nudges that you have towards your goals.
It's two different voices. You're going to have, unfortunately, her voice isn't as loud as the voice saying, like, I'm mad, I'm upset, they're not here.
Right.
Listen to the little voice that's saying, I'm still here. Mm-hmm. I'm still rooting for you. Mm-hmm. Like, you got this. Mm-hmm.
Shameless plug. Available on Amazon. But yes, I completely agree with that. And those are the times when it takes the most work on yourself. It takes the most of you really hearing that inner voice. Because at that time when nobody else is around, that's when the work happens.
Yeah.
It's literally when the work happens. It's not when the couple of days after the loss, the couple of days after, everybody is surrounding you. It's not then.
Give it a couple of months.
Give it a couple of months. And I feel like even with Jamela, I realized that a few months down the road
is when
it was hitting the hardest. And I could sit and I became a coffee drinker because of her. So some of those things, it's like whenever I have a coffee, I'm like, oh girl, you would like this. But in those moments after,
it's like a now what phase.
Yes.
Because when it happens, when someone passes, it's like, okay, we have to do this. Like, how are we going to present them? What does the service look like? Oh. Like, what family's walking in? Like, what do we do to get through this service? And after the service has happened, the next day, and I remember my now what moment after Mandy was the Monday driving to work. And the Monday or the Tuesday, I think it was Tuesday. And I remember driving to work like, okay, this is what my healing will look like. I'm going to do these things. And then I get in the garage and one of my friends calls me and all he said was, hey, Whitley. And I was sobbing. And I remember being like, now what do I do? I built up all this strength to get through the funeral as hard as it was. But now what? Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, what do I do when I'm like smiling and laughing? Because now I feel guilty about it because I just lost my cousin.
Yeah.
So now what?
Girl, my now what moment was when I had to figure out how I was going to tell Arden. Now what? Now, like, I have to find a way to tell, she was 3, to tell my 3-year-old that she has TT Jen, TT Liz, and this was her TT. That was it. She didn't have no extra, no. How do I explain to her this? And when I tell you that was
I'm smiling because of what I'm about to say. We do not have any tissue in this room.
We do not.
Okay.
We don't.
I know this because we live together.
Right.
You've had a full circle of now what? Because that was your now what moment.
Babes.
The other day.
Oh, gosh. I know exactly what you're about to say.
The other day, she sees a picture of Mandy. She's like, this is TT, right? Take a picture. I want to take a picture with my TT. And you looked at me like, what do I do? And I was like, you take the picture. You just had a full circle of now what? You're doing your now what?
Girl, listen, ma'am. I wasn't, see, I told you. Woo, girl, I knew it.
You are living a full circle of now what?
And when I tell you, I almost sobbed. And it was the fact that I looked at you and you were like, girl, take the picture, get it together. And I was just like, oh gosh. But she understands now. She understands.
Yeah. This is cool to have a full circle now what moment.
We did. We just.
I love this.
Ooh, when I say
love
that
the healing.
Was the healing. Thank you, God. The healing that takes place, because in the beginning, when she first, when I was trying to explain it to her, because she would see my sister's phone, I had some of my sister's stuff. I had her laptop and her laptop bag and her cell phone, because we were trying to figure out what to do. Again, all the things that you have to do after someone passes. I had her phone and I was trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do with this? I still have it. But for a while, I was letting Arden play on the phone because she knew my sister had tons of games and Arden knew exactly where to go. She knew what apps to go to and all of that. So she would be like, oh, this is TT's phone. And she'd be like, where's TT? And I had to like, okay, now it's time. Because I had said something before that, but now it's like you're asking like specifically. And I tried my best to explain it to her and that she was not coming back. And she was just like, okay. Like she understood it in her 3-year-old mind. And we moved forward. She was like, okay, and moved on. So for her to then come back the other day and be like, this is TT. I was in shambles. Inside, I was in shambles.
Oh, no, I know.
In shambles.
Look at me. I'm the captain. Take the picture. Take the picture.
And I took it, and I still have the picture on my phone. It's so cute because she's just smiling, holding up this.
She was proud.
She was so proud.
She was so proud. Like, this is her TT.
Yes. So the healing, go through it. Don't stay in it. That's the biggest lesson. Go through it. Because had I tried to stay in it, had I allowed myself, I literally asked. I asked my daughter's father, I asked him, hey, I need an extra day. Like, I just need a moment. I need a moment because I needed to feel my feels. I needed to break all the way down. And I allowed myself that moment. I broke all the way down. I had the tears. I cried it out. And then I was able to pick her up and I was able to address, now I need to tell you. But that moment does not necessarily end because now we have the full circle moment. So there's probably going to be another moment as she gets older where we're still going to have to go back to that.
The cover of my book has like a track on it and it has it going over hills and all these things. And I was deliberate about putting that there because grieving is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Mm-hmm. It is not easy. It's not a straight shot. You're going to have ups. You're going to have downs.
Yeah.
And instead of it saying a finish line, it's like, you got this. And I say you got this because there are going to be ups and downs. You're going to run through the woods. You're going to climb this mountain. You're going to want to stop and you're going to want to take a break. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to feel this today.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
but you got this. Like,
Yeah.
you're going to run the race. You're going to run the marathon knowing that you're going to make it.
Mm-hmm. That's so real. That's so real because when I go back and I think about Jamela and look where we are now, like that seemed in those moments. And let's take a pause with that. When Jamela passed, it was different from when Mandy passed.
Agreed.
Okay. So when Jamela passed, there was, when we talk about those stages of grief, you can kind of go through the stages because she had breast cancer. So you're
were a little more prepared.
You're a little bit more prepared for it because unfortunately, we started to see the decline of her health, especially in the last couple of months of her life. We started to see the decline. So then you start to process the grief before it even happens. But with Mandy, it was different because it was days. Like,
days.
She was sick. She found out she had lupus and she had an infection and they were trying to clear it. And so that was leading up, but it was almost like she had a rapid decline. So she went in the hospital on Monday. Was it Monday? I think it was Monday.
I got a phone call on Tuesday.
So she was in the hospital. They admitted her on Monday. And by Thursday, she passed on Thursday.
Yeah. So I got a phone call on Wednesday. Because I remember Wednesday we did that call.
Yes, the prayer call.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
because by Monday it was like, okay, this is where we are. She's been admitted. They're doing everything they can. By Tuesday it was like, okay, what are we doing? Because of how drastic her health had changed in that quick of a time, they had everything going to her. Every possible intervention, they had it. And so by Wednesday, it really was not looking good at all. And literally Thursday, her heart succumbed to everything that they were doing. And so it was drastic, very fast, not enough time to really process over a period of time because it's like here, there. And so when you have something that is
so sudden
or even instant, when you're talking about like car accidents and things like that are very instant and you don't have time to process, it's like,
it's the moment of like, this isn't supposed to be happening.
Right.
Like your birthday's coming. Like, she's supposed to be celebrating my birthday with me.
Right.
Like, as I have that's a thing to sit in for a moment. Like, as you accomplish things, it's almost like it puts you back into grieving for a second because you're like, she's supposed to be here.
Yes.
She's supposed to be here celebrating with me.
Yes.
So it's a weird place. So, like, as things suddenly happen, the last time I saw Mandy was Christmas Eve, as we were all doing our family Christmas Eve.
Right.
And I remember, like, I was getting tacos because that's what we were eating.
Yes.
And she was waiting for me to finish. But before I was like, do you want to get in line? She's like, no, I'll wait. And I was like, okay. And then she's like, actually, can you give me a hug? Never told you that. Never told you that.
She's about to have me in shambles on my own podcast. You hear me? Episode 1.
She asked for a hug, and I gave her a hug. And I still have to pause about it. The hug that she gave me, which is why I ended up having the side conversations I had with you, the hug that she gave me was so tight and so supported. Like, even now, it kind of takes my breath away.
Wow.
Like, there was so much, like, power and love in that hug that it made me pause. Like, I paused when I went back to, like, fix my food. I had to take a deep breath. Like, I had to remind myself to breathe.
Right.
And this is before anything happened. This is about a month before. She didn't know. I never told you about that. I never told you why I was saying the things I was saying.
No, you didn't. So the day before Mandy was admitted to the hospital, um, which might have been Tuesday. I can't remember at this
I
point.
know for a fact it was a Thursday that she passed.
Yes, I know that for sure. But the day before, I did not have Arden. So it had to be either a Sunday or a Monday, and she was in school, one of the two. And I went over to the house because I asked her, I was getting ready to start my locks and I needed a blow dryer to dry my hair, and she had one. And so I went over there to just borrow the blow dryer from her, and she was downstairs on the living room. She came and she laid on my lap. And she asked me like rub her back, and I was rubbing her back, and I was just in that moment, it was almost like God telling me it's time, because she all the emotions came over me in that moment, because it was like I felt the heaviness of what was about to happen without knowing and believing, no, that's like, no, 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 like, no. But when I tell you, in that moment, I was rubbing her back as she laid her head in my lap. Mind you, we are 6 years age difference. So it's like I felt like I was comforting my little sister or my child in that moment.
So Christmas Eve was the last time I saw Mandy. And then New Year's Eve, I think you and I went to get our nails done.
Yeah.
And because I kept hitting her up. I was like, we need to talk. Like, even when we were at Christmas Eve, I was like, oh no, we need to talk. Like, something is wrong.
Yeah.
And I remember when we were getting our nails done, and I was like, okay, well, that's an update on whatever and whatever. And I was like, something's wrong with Mandy. And you were like, what are you talking about? And I was like, something is wrong. And it's also New Year's Eve. Like, we were getting our nails done to go into like the new year.
Right.
And I remember looking at you, and you kind of just looked at me kind of puzzled and shrugged, because what does that mean? Something's wrong. And I was like, I don't know, but something is really wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It was the hug. I was like,
that makes sense. That makes sense now. Because I was like, wait.
Even with my oldest sister, Wendy, Wendy is Jamela's age, but like, so she's well aware of Mandy. And I just kept trying to tell her, I was like, no, Wendy, because she wasn't there on Christmas Eve. I was like, no, Wendy, like, we really, like, you need to hit her up, like, whatever, y'all talk, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you need to do the things.
Yeah.
And Wendy just kept, like, kind of ignoring it, but also, like, even in hindsight, and even in the moment, like, I knew I sounded crazy. I knew, like, and it's not that, like, I knew that this would be the outcome. I ultimately knew, like, with a sense of urgency, something was wrong.
Yeah. Because you can feel it. You can absolutely feel it. And there's...
We're not going to... It's going to be part 1, part 2. I repeat that.
It's going to have to be. But there's so much when it comes to the grieving process. And I really feel like it's time for people to stop trying to just get like, let me just skip it. You can't skip grieving. You can't skip going through the process, because
you can't run away from it.
You can't run away from it. The longer you try to run away from it, the longer you try to delay it,
it becomes a beast.
It becomes this bear on your back that
and instead of it
weighing
being
you down,
like a bear that you just need to like get by in the woods, it is now a bear that is on your heels. And like, you have to address it.
Yeah.
And it's not... grieving looks different for everybody. Not everybody's going to be crying and shouting. Not everyone. One of the things that I did, and I still do, is I started coloring.
Which I love.
Yeah, I started coloring. And that is... and I even went to therapy, because I was like, I've never experienced this. When our grandmother passed away, I was 18. So like, I was still a child. Like, I understood it, and I was just like... I remember the day of the funeral, I went and looked at her in the casket, and I was like, that don't look like my grandma, and immediately disassociated. Never told anybody that. Immediately was like, that's not my grandma, and went and sat down.
Wow.
So like, it took like years for me to be like,
that happened.
Yeah. Because I think I went to call her, or I went to like go to her house, and I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
So grieving looks different for everybody.
It does,
not everybody's going to be crying. Not everyone's going to feel how you feel. Some people are private and they're not going to cry in front of you. I know, unfortunately, our family is very prideful. So, like, at these services, we will stand here. We did cry and we did have the moment. But as far as rolling around on the floor and carrying on, not us.
Not happening.
It won't be us. So it looks different for everybody. So I don't think that there should be the emphasis on like, you need to cry or you do need to feel whatever feelings you're having.
Yeah.
And process them. Something else that I say is there's no wrong way to grieve. There's just healthy and unhealthy ways.
Yes.
So when things start to become an addiction, you're not grieving healthy.
Right. You're just masking.
You're just masking. You're just making making yourself numb. But you're not processing anything. Healthy ways like
therapy,
amazing therapy, and then
100% supported
team therapy.
Hashtag
therapy, team therapy, all the therapy things.
All of it. All of it. Go, please.
So I think like there's just healthy and unhealthy ways. So, and I think that once you get into the unhealthy ways is when it like that bears it on your heels. Because now you're trying to escape something that you could have just gone through.
And then you have to circle back. Then it brings you back. Like, then you end up going backwards.
Well, because then you have to clean up all the mess that you left behind.
Yes.
So it just becomes this really unhealthy and almost unnecessary cycle if you grieved healthy from the start.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm so excited. Listen, this is exactly why I needed this to be the first episode, because I have been through all the things, I feel like. And this past season has been very transformational. I feel like there's a lot of things that needed to happen in this last season that needed to be processed, that needed to be dealt with. And I can't start something new without visiting where I've been, why I've been. Because I feel like in the last few months, I've kind of been absent from social media. I'll post something here and there. Like we had Arda's birthday and Easter, but it's
the major holidays,
the major things. But really posting on a regular basis, it hasn't been my thing here recently because of I've just been processing.
Slight joke. So the way you just talked about social media is the way people like, oh yeah, I go to church, I go on like Easter, Mother's Day, and Christmas. You're like a holiday social media person right now.
Facts.
Like if it's a holiday, I'll post. I got it.
That's real. That's what it has been. Really, that's what it has been. And I'm trying to get back into it. You know, people say that like, oh, I'm trying to get back on social media. But I am. But I needed some time to
to breathe.
Yeah. Because it was literally one thing after the next. After Mandy passed, then some other things happened. And it's just been one thing after the other.
Well, so I say you needed to breathe. Different things affect different parts of your body. Grief affects your lungs and your breathing.
I did not know that. See, I did not know that.
You needed to breathe.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times you can feel it. Like when someone passes, you're immediately like holding your breath.
Yeah.
And I think people forget to exhale. Yes. So they go through all the motions, and then their now what? A part of their now what is exhaling.
That is so true. Because I've been breathing a whole lot. I've been like, I got to get this out, babes. I got to get this out. We can't. I don't want to be stuck in that space, because what I do know about myself is the last time that I was stuck in that space is when I lost so much weight. When I was like, I'm 5'7", and I look at photos.
Concerning.
It was really bad when I look back at those photos. So I know what grief looks like. I know it looks like on me when I'm not allowing myself to process it.
You know what unhealthy grieving looks like.
I know what unhealthy grieving looks like when you're just trying to go through the motions. And I don't want to ever just go through the motions.
It's a state of survival. And I don't think that we avoid that, because we really are like, I just need to get through this.
Yeah.
After Mandy's service, Apostle Williams came up to me. He asked me to like go more into my scripture before, like after I read it, and I just laughed in his face. afterwards, he came up to me and he was like, it took all your strength to just read that scripture.
Yeah.
And he was like, I understand.
Yeah.
So, like, we build up all the strength to just get through it.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're not even exhaling at that point.
Oh, yeah. The service, you've mentioned twice the things that I've said at the service.
She wants to talk about me making her cry. She is traumatic. I'm looking at you. She is traumatic. So
they asked me to talk at both services,
which is fine.
I
to a certain extent, I understand. I don't understand because I have all of my siblings. Here's two things: Jamela's service. I don't remember anyone else's, but what I do remember, Jasmine and I are both the youngest of our bunch of siblings. Jasmine got up there and said, I do not know a life without my sisters. Babe, I'm still not well about that. I don't know a life without my siblings or my sisters. That even messed Wendy up, my oldest sibling. That messed her up. So fast forward 5 years later to Mandy's service. Jasmine gets up there straight face, standing flat-footed, and goes, this is not our first time burying a sibling. This is not our second. This is now our third time. When I say immediate panic, my heart is racing now. If I do this 3 times, I don't have any more. I don't have any more. So she wants to talk about me making people cry. She is traumatic.
Listen, they asked me to talk. She's
like, not it. I didn't do it.
They asked me to talk, okay? And I think in both of those moments, I had in my mind what I thought I was going to say, because I had stuff written down. But then when I got up there, it was like, this is what is on my spirit to say. And that's what I said. I said what I said. And I'm sorry that it was real though.
Oh no, I don't.
It was from the deepest parts of my existence, because that is all I have. In those moments, that's all I had. I didn't have any, like, I don't have no jokes. I don't have any. I can't even give you the colorful stories about my siblings in those moments. It's like, this is the realest part of who I am right now. I don't know another life without these people. Like, I'm the youngest. I mean, so it's like
part of your foundation.
Yeah. Like me and Jamela, we were so close. And then Mandy and I were also very, very, very close. And it's when you lose those two foundational people that you're really, really close with, it's like, babes.
Every part of my being is like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm sitting here, I hopefully look composed, but every part of me is like, nah. I don't want to do this. Like, it was and is and will be your truth.
Yeah.
And I don't take away from that. There's scripture in the Bible that says everything works together. That's probably Whitley's translation. So don't go looking for those exact words. But everything works together. Things that came out of Jamela passing is like you and I.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'm very clingy as a person. When Jasmine goes to leave, I'm like, so, like, when are you coming back? Like, I immediately, like, turn into Arden 2.0. Like, when are you coming back?
What's the time frame on this? So I know, like
what are you doing tonight? Like, are you leaving me by myself? It's all the things. From my friend passing, I have learned how to grieve. I've learned how to be there for other people grieving. Mm-hmm. I've published a book on grieving. Everything really does work together for your good.
Yes.
Even as horrific as it is.
Yes. But only if you allow it to. Only if you allow it to. Because it like, again, we talk about the toxic ways, the unhealthy ways of grieving, the positive ways of grieving, the healthy ways, if you allow it to work together for your good and you process the grief and you go through it versus being stuck in a place, it will work together for your good, so that on the other side of that, the light, the vibrant life that you can have once you go through that process, if you allow yourself to go through it.
There's two, both of these are in the book. There's two analogies that I'm thinking of, and I can't decide which one is more applicable. So I'm gonna say both of them.
Okay.
The first one, I talk about like boiling an egg and boiling a potato.
Mm-hmm.
So like your grief is like the water, and you are both the egg and both the potato. And this goes back to choosing and making the choices that you are. You can choose to come out of the boiling water soft like the potato, or you can be hardened by the boiling water. So that's one analogy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The other one, I talk about planting a garden. Because if you plant a garden, no, I talk about things being in the ground. Two different things being in the ground. There's something that you put in the ground once it's dead and it's not going to do anything. You put it in the ground because it's dead.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is you put like seeds into the ground to grow.
I feel a word. I feel a word.
So as you're choosing to put this grief into the ground, you have to decide from this, are you going to lay there and stay there and be dead? Or are you going to choose to rise up and grow from this?
If this was poetry, babes, yes.
So I didn't know which analogy.
Both. They're both applicable in this situation, because yes. Grief is very much both of those things. Very much, because you can allow
like,
it to harden you.
Hot. Like,
it's
I don't know.
very hot. We are put you in grief. You are put to the fire 100%.
Things are going to burn away. Like,
yes, the life that you had before is gone.
What happened, but from Mandy's passing, the amount of friends that were like just burnt off and just falling off like leaves
left and right.
I don't know what that was.
Yeah, but
it was like it put me further into grieving, because now I'm grieving friendships of 15 years. Like it was insane.
Right.
So like I had to make a decision. Like I can either be hardened and be this egg and be very upset that like my friend that I've known since college, like, what am I supposed to do?
Right.
Or I can say like I got this. Like I understand. Like this isn't going to be who I am.
Right. I'm not going to stay.
I still here. Like. Who doesn't love potatoes?
Listen, they come in very different forms. I love them.
Who's not going to love, like...
I love it.
I will not be... You don't like eggs.
I don't. So I will not be a hard-boiled egg. I will not.
So, like, I consciously made the choice. And I could say, like, oh, I blame this person for this, or I blame... That's a part of being the hardened egg. Mm-hmm. I choose, like, I'm still happy.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I chose to, like, be softened by this. Like, it's part of being self-aware.
Yeah.
And also, like, I could either stay buried, because, man, it was hard. I also had a classmate that passed away at the same time. And both of those, like, what am I supposed to do? I ran away to the beach. But what am I supposed to do?
Mm-hmm.
So I made the choice, again, to not die in this, but to choose to plant some seeds into it.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest lesson. It goes back to go through it. Do not allow yourself to stay in it. Do not allow yourself to die in that space and be a dead thing, versus rising from the ashes. Be the phoenix, be the seeds, be the plant, like be all the things.
I feel like when I get this smart, like I have another little gem.
I love it.
Like I have another little gem. So something else that is so foundational to going through grief is support.
Mm-hmm.
And in this very moment, I wish, that's a side note, support. And I say that because one of my sisters was going through life, and her and I were texting. Like she'll probably watch this. Hey girl, you gonna know I'm talking about you.
You think this song is about you? Sorry.
Well, no, you're fine. I have two sisters. I'm not airing business, which is why I'm not saying her name or like her business. Either way, she was going through like some life was life and hard with her. And I remember she was texting me and she was like, it's dark. This is the gym. And I said, okay. And I was like, well, that's fine. And she's like, but I'm afraid. And I was like, she said, and I was like, well, darkness is fine. And I was like, because it doesn't get any darker. So I was like, and you've been in darkness before, so like we're good.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, well, I'm afraid of the dark. And I said, well, you just can't get stuck in it. And I was like, I'll be your light so you don't get stuck. Support. Because you're going to be in the darkness, and it's just a matter of getting out and not getting stuck.
Yeah.
I'll be your light. I got you.
Yeah. And that is key. That's key. And babe. Foundational. Because, my goodness, one of the main differences between Jamella's passing and Mandy's passing is the support. Completely different.
Because of Jamela passing, you and I were both each other's support for Mandy.
Yeah.
We were so deliberate about cousin, like weekly cousin dates.
Yes.
Until we were in a better space.
I need to see your face. I need to make sure you're good.
Like we ate, we did the things, and it was like we text each other throughout the week, but it was a deliberate, like we are getting together today. Like I need to see your face in person. Because even with us FaceTiming, there's a difference in seeing someone in person.
Facts.
Which is why like the pandemic wreaked the havoc that it did. But like on FaceTime, you can still like put a mask on and you can still hide a little bit.
But in person, you can't hide nothing.
Cousin dates were full, like we ate, we cried, we loved on each other.
Yes.
But it was the support that we needed. We were both so broken about it.
Yeah.
So broken. And it was the support from each other.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because of Jamela's passing, I was able to vocalize the support that I needed. I was able to be like, from you, from my friends, like one of my friends was like, oh, I don't know if I should come over, but I feel like I need to come over. And I was like, girl, come. And she brought
Help
me.
Help me. And our Kevin Hart voice.
Help me. Like, come. Yes, come. She brought me some flowers and we talked and I was able to talk it through with her. And even my friend Shauna came over, my friend Jasmine, I would go over to her house. Like the support, my friend Kim, they're checking, like my friends, my village, my friend Nakia, like I will call I knew all of them, all of y'all. Like I knew what support I needed because of Jamela's passing. So a lot of times, if this is your first time having a major loss or change in your shift in life, you don't know what you need. So it takes you sitting back and be like, okay, I feel like I need somebody's company. Don't be afraid to ask for the support you need. Don't be afraid to say, speak up, because there are people that are willing and ready to stand by your side in that time frame. I
don't know if anyone's gathered this, might know a little bit about grieving. I come running with all the things.
All the things.
I come running okay, let's do this. Like I have a bag on my shoulder, like we gonna unpack this. Like, and I don't come with the intention like I'm gonna leave you and you're okay. But I come with the intention like I'll be the support if you need me. If you just need someone in the room with you, I will sit there quietly and mind all of my good business. But someone is there in the room with you because it's about the support.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's going to be a part 2. There will definitely,
I don't feel like we got to any of your points.
we really didn't. We really didn't. But it's not even about that. We did. So,
okay.
But it's like, I really wanted to start this conversation because this is a conversation about something that we aren't really talking about. I'm like, we're going to start this on episode 1. I'm tired of all of the podcasts that are dealing with topics that everybody else is.
The fun things.
Yeah. Like
let's go travel with my bestie. And this is what we did on our trip.
It's great. It's great.
Travel with your bestie, but also feel your feelings. What we going to do on this podcast here is we going to feel the feelings. Okay. We're going to talk about the feelings. We're going to talk about all of the things. Because that's what I like to talk about, all the things. So, yay. Thank you for being with us. We did it. We still have our faces on.
Listen, I cried a couple tears. Not too much. I didn't do too much. But we did it. We made it through episode 1. Thank you for being my first guest, cousin. I love you so much.
I love you too.
This was fantastic. And I will see y'all on the next episode. Bye.